Hey guys, this is Captain Jose once again, and today I'm gonna do another gameplay from gameplay video of me flying the IDG A3 2X, which is the Immersive Design Group's version of the A320, from Barcelona to Rome. So I'm gonna be flying on a Vueling flight with Vueling livery. So I'm going to first start the plane. Okay, now I'm going to enable the parking brake because we don't want the plane to make any unnecessary movements as we configure the autopilot. So first I'm going to load the route that I have pre-made. Barcelona El Prat. So I'm going to reopen this window so that by reopening I'll have these options active. Now that I have these options active, I'm gonna first check whether the route is properly entered. I don't understand why we have to. I think this waypoint is troublesome. Way to remove that waypoint. Osbach. I just check that whether that's the. Yeah, I think that's a troublesome waypoint because it's not supposed to go that far up. Remove it. And now the route looks proper. This one is not short, but it's not too long of a flight. So I think by the time we get to Rome, it may be dark. So it's an excellent time for you guys to learn how to handle your plane when it's dark. So set the SID, activate. Once we got that activated, I'm just gonna press this and change the heading to managed mode. I'm gonna scoot over to the flight computer. Yeah, so I'm gonna click on FMGC, go to init. I'm gonna enter the route, LEBL to LIRF. It's done. flight number VY36 36X. I just put an X because it's like not a real plane, not a real route, sorry. The cost index is going to be 12, 250. Sorry, I'm going to set the cruise altitude to be 350. That's fine. Now I'm going to go to performance, set the V1 as 130, VR is 133, and V2 at 36. Transition altitude, I'll keep it at 6,000. The flaps, I'm going to set it at up 1.5. Flex suit temp, I'm going to make it at 43. So, yeah, that's fine now. So let's go back to the cockpit. I'm going to enable constraints. Yeah. So I think 283. So now that we enabled our flight computer, now that we configured our flight computer, I can set the speed to manage mode. I'm going to scoot over to the flight computer now, and not the flight computer. I'm going to scoot over to the FCU panel, rather. And I'm going to configure this 280. So I'm going to move this up to 28,300. That's the first altitude I want to climb to, after which I can climb, because this waypoint, like a first waypoint, we have to be at 28,300. So first I'm going to climb to 28,300, and then afterwards I could climb up to our cruise altitude. Okay guys, now I'm going to increase the throttle, and now it's time for us to take off. So just some final checks. Release parking brake, throttle, Toga. Oops. Toga. Rotate. Positive rate. We could turn our autopilot on. And we can lift our landing gear up. Since it says lever climb, I'm going to change my thrust lever to the climb position. Just going to steal some quick views as we rise. That's our flight. That's the Spanish coast. That's the airport at Barcelona. So we're abiding by the constraints. That's good news for us. The altitude constraints here. I'm going to lift the flaps up. As we're climbing, I'm going to prepare to illuminate the cockpit because I think it's going to get dark soon. I'm going to turn the floodlights on. I'm going to turn the integrated light on. I'm going to turn the brightness on here, and I'm going to set the dome light to dim. Meanwhile, that's our view. As you can see, that's the Barcelona's airport in the distance. We are climbing. Since we crossed our transition altitude of 6,000 feet, I'm going to enable standard pressure. Once we cross 10,000 feet, we can off the landing lights. I think that's our plane in the distance. It is. Uh, Beautiful. .4 nautical miles to our next waypoint. I think we lost sight of our Spanish coast now, which means we've come pretty far. We've crossed 10,000 feet. I'm going to turn the landing lights. Landing lights off. That's good. This is the Mediterranean Sea. Scoop over to this. We're still climbing. This is the co-pilot's view of the plane. We have reached 28,300 feet. We're going to continue to fly in that speed until we reach this waypoint, after which we could begin our climb to our cruise altitude, which is 35,000 feet. So, yeah. Now I'm just gonna set this here to 35,000 feet. It's too slow. Yeah, I'm gonna set this to 35,000 feet, and I'm just gonna leave it. It's not gonna make any changes until we press pull. So I'm gonna press pull only after we reach that point I told you earlier about. I think it's gonna be dark by the time we land in Rome. About 18 miles away is Tosnu. We're still about 5 miles away. that after we cross a waypoint, we could increase our altitude to 35,000 feet, which is the cruise altitude. We can begin our climb to our cruise altitude now. And once we hit our cruise altitude, we could chill, basically. That's the let's look where we are. I think this is Minorca or Mallorca, one of those islands. Yeah, I think this is Minorca. I think it's getting dark. No, just because where's the sun? Oh yeah, the sun's there, and already we're losing visibility slowly. One thing you may have noticed is that you may be thinking that we're flying really slow because the reading here reads but a number that is close to 50. But in actuality, we're really flying very fast. We're flying at about 421 knots in actually, because as you go higher, the air friction is less. So I'm actually flying pretty fast in the sky. Oops, I forgot to set that to maximum. Because in the morning, I was flying a 747. So in the 747, I noticed that uh, so yeah, I noticed in the 747 that if you add if you add greater numbers for the model, greater shader numbers, what happens is that you get this greenish tint or hue on the flight's fuselage, which looks really annoying. I think I'm just gonna put the water to a lower shader option. Yeah, let's put water to that. Something that's I hope, yeah, we reached our cruise altitude now. And you can tell by the fact that in the primary flight display we could get the reading alt cruise yet. We're still flying over the sea, and since this is not like a hop flight where you just hop from an airport, cruise for like a few minutes and then land, I may cut out some portions of the flight because I know that it would be pretty boring if I just left the video playing with me just cruising. So I may cut some parts and skip ahead when I'm editing the video. I'm going to change the cost index to 25 now. As of now, we're close to our next waypoint. Since we Yeah, I think we're flying now at a higher speed than before. And by the way, yeah, the sun is setting. It's getting darker and darker. Um, Initially, when I took off, I thought I could show you guys, I think, Sardinia and another island of Italy. We're going to fly past those two islands. But I think since it's getting dark, we won't be able to see them. Yeah, this was the island I was talking about. We may or we may not be able to see these islands. Anyways, um, so yeah, we were able to see the island that we were uh, that I thought that we may miss. That's the island that I told you about. The name of the island is uh, I think it is. Just googling it right now. Uh, yeah, so I think we're flying over Sardinia right now. The other island that's more up north, beyond the sea, is Corsica, which belongs to France. So this is the island of Sardinia. Pretty beautiful island. Great mountains. Like Mallorca, which belongs to Spain. There are some cities here. And I think we're also able to see Corsica in the distance. Don't know for sure whether that's Corsica or maybe some little isles that belongs to Sardinia. Oh yeah, that's not Corsica there that we saw. That's part of Sardinia. So for this leg of the journey, we're going to be flying over Sardinia. Um, Now I'm going to reduce the altitude to 23,100. We are descending slowly now. So we are 87.8 nautical miles away from the first approach waypoint of Rome's airport. Now I'm going to configure the ILS information for the airplane as I'm going to be performing an automatic landing in Rome. So I'm going to put this into my radio stack, these numbers. So I'm going to land in runway 16R. So I'm going to put the ILS frequency into here and swap. I'm going to put the heading of 160 here. I'm going to take manual control of the speed now. Now I changed the speed to 250 knots. I reduced my speed. I'm going to reduce to 5,000. If the airport is in range now, I'm going to get the QNH value. The airport is in range, so I'm going to get the QNH value by plugging in the ATIS value. ATIS frequency, sorry. So it's 121.85.
This is Roma Fiumicino Leonardo da Vinci Airport Information Cockpit. Time 1920 Zulu. Expect ILS approach, landing and departing runway 25. Weather, wind 260 at 6 knots. Visibility 10 kilometers or more. No significant clouds. Temperature 24, dew point 7. QNH 1031 hectopascal.
The QNH is 1031.
No signal advised.
So I'm going to plug that here. So yeah, the reason why I enable standard after plugging in the QNH value is because I want to enable the the custom QNH value only after we lowered our plane below 10,000 feet. Until then, I'm going to fly on standard. I'm going to lower my speed a bit because it seems like I fear that I may not reach the right altitude by the time necessary. So I'm going to set the speed to 230 knots. That's the Italian coast. I hope that we could descend before it's too late. Now that we're closer to the airport, I'm going to reduce the speed to 200 knots. And I'm going to lower the flaps. I lower flaps 1. And lower the speed further to 3000. I'm going to lower the speed further to 170 knots. Because you're coming closer and closer now. Or 180. 180 is fine now. I'm going to I put the flaps to 2. We're closer to 10,000 feet, so I'm going to enable the custom QNH value. I'm going to go little. I'm going to take a turn and rejoin at this waypoint because I think I need to lower my altitude once again. So I'm just going to go a little bit here, take a turn, and rejoin the waypoint when I have reduced the speed so that my landing can be a safer landing. There's some villages here in Italy. I'm going to turn the landing lights on now. And I'm just going to wait till the altitude is reduced to about 3,000 feet. Or at least 4,000 feet. And then once it's reduced, I can reset the heading to managed mode. But for now, I'm gonna be, oops, where's the cockpit? Yeah. That's a flight that just passed by the way. I think there's one flight, there was one flight which was going to land. So I'm gonna fly around and take a turn. Now I'm going to turn towards the waypoint.
Traffic.
There's traffic. I'm going to turn towards our
Clear of traffic.
old waypoint, the one which we turned away from, and I'm going to now fly towards it. So I'm going to click this. Yeah, I set that to manage mode now. So the heading is in managed mode. So yeah, we are now at a safe altitude. I set the heading to managed mode. I'm going to be descending to 2015 or 2000 feet, and I'm going to be descending at a rate of -500. Oops. And sorry, I'm going to be approaching that altitude at a rate of -500, not -1500. I believe I said it. I'm going to reduce at a rate of -500. So view, cockpit view options. Actually, I'm going to increase the altitude to 2,400. That's fine. Once we intercept the glide slope for the I can feel safe and confident to enable the localizer and prepare for an automatic landing. I'm going to reduce the speed now to approach speed, but before that, full flaps, landing systems on, and I'm going to turn the localizer on now. Yeah, the localizer is being identified. The localizer has been enabled, sorry, in the plane. Since it's already aligned to the runway, I'm going to turn the approach button now. And I'm going to set auto brake to medium. And since we have the runway on visual, I'm going to pull the gear down. So that's our plane approaching the airport, and we're gonna be landing. I have my hand on the E key, the letter E, ready to press it as soon as I hear the sound retard, and I have my second hand on my the delete key, ready to press it after pressing the letter E in order to enable the thrust reversers. And I have some fingers on 0 and enter just to steer the plane in case it veers off or tries to veers off the runway. I'm going to lower the speed now to 130. Or to 127.6. Yeah, that's better. Enter view. I'm going to recalibrate my cockpit view, and I can do that by view options. Oops, not here. View cockpit view options. Yeah, I think it's recalibrated now. Parking brake is on now, and I disengage the thrust reversers and I turn this light off. It was a successful landing, more successful than my last gameplay. That's a plane that's there at the airport at Rome, and I think that's the C far ahead. Don't know exactly. this kind of beacon that's there, and I think that's the terminal somewhere there, and those are planes waiting. Let's just check the exteriors. Pretty good landing, not too far from the center line. It was really well done, and I think this is one of my best landings, my best flights. Even though there's something I could improve on, I would probably start descending more earlier. I need to work on my descents. But let's now look at a replay of our entire landing.
Replay active. Ask to stop.
So this was when we moved a little bit away from our waypoint because I wanted to reduce the altitude to about 5,000 feet. But around here we actually reduced the altitude successfully. So I continue to move in direction towards our waypoint. Then by here, I think I was continuing along that waypoint. And I think somewhere around here I enabled the localizer. And since I had the runway on visual, and it was not, since I was centered on the runway, I enabled the approach button. And I put my flaps to full, and I lower the landing gear again since the runway was in visual, and I set auto brakes to medium now. This was our approach. It was a quite weird approach. We didn't approach straight. I don't know why. We were approaching in a slanting way. Terrain. Yeah, it was a weird approach, but a successful one. So so I came in a very slanting way. Don't know why. I think it was the winds or something, but I still made my way to the runway, and I had to. I think I just can't engage from the autopilot at this point because I wanted to steer the plane back to the center line of the runway. And I steered the plane as it was reducing in speed. And yeah, I brought her to the center line. After which I braked. So thank you for following